The 4th season of Demon Slayer has ended and the final climax is around the corner in the form of 3 different movies showcasing the war. And as such, we're going to see all the Hashiras going into massive battles, and in honor of that, I wanted to rank the Hashiras in terms of strength from weakest to strongest. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. But before we begin, please make sure to like and subscribe, as I would really appreciate it, and comment below your favorite Hashira. Starting off at the lowest on the list, we have the insect Hashira, Shinobu. And just because she's at the bottom of the list doesn't mean she is weak. As being a Hashira, she is the pinnacle of humanity in the fight against demons. She is actually the fastest of all the Hashiras, as stated by Doma, but what she makes up for in speed, she lacks in strength. Shinobu is actually the physically weakest Hashira of them all. In fact, she can't even properly cut the head off of a demon. She makes up for this with her sword, which isn't actually a blade, but rather acts more like a stinger, utilizing thrusting attacks rather than slash attacks. Her sword is covered in poison, which is lethal to the demons and actually kills lower ranked demons very well. However, its limit comes to the upper ranked demons, as it has no real effect on them. In fact, when fighting Doma, she needed to have herself filled with poison and to be eaten by Doma to get it within his system. Even with this plan, it wouldn't actually have killed Doma. All it did was weaken him enough to have Inosuke and Kanao be able to kill him. That is why I am putting her last on this list. Next on the list, we have the sound Hashira, Tengen, who is the flashiest of all the Hashiras. Tengen, while also being a demon slayer, was formerly a ninja, and as such he excelled in espionage, mastery of weapons, and combat. The most impressive thing he's ever done was fight the Upper Moon 6 demon, Gyutaro, and he did win. However, it's important to note that win is in quotations. He needed the aid of Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Nezuko, as well as his wives, and he still lost his left arm and left eye in the fight, forcing him into retirement. And if it weren't for Nezuko's blood demon art, he would have died due to the poison. An important thing to make note of is that Tengen, although starting off slow against Gyutaro, has an ability called musical score, which allows him to read his opponent's moves like musical notes on a sheet, allowing for predicting his enemy's movements, making him much better in combat. However, it does take a while for this ability to be utilized. While he was impressive against the Upper Moon, the characters above him on this list have shown much more impressive combat skills on much higher Upper Moons. Which leads to our next Hashira, the Flame Hashira, Rengoku, who is the most energetic of all the other Hashiras. And I can already hear the frustration of why I put Rengoku down in 7th place, considering he was able to fight the Upper Moon 3 demon Akaza. And that reasoning is what makes people put Rengoku at higher positions, although I disagree. If we analyze the manga, as well as some notable lines from the movie, we can see that Akaza was not really giving it his all. Akaza was more enjoying the fight and trying to convince him to become a demon to continue growing in strength. To Akaza, it was more of a sales pitch than anything else, because all he craved was a great fight, and he believed Rengoku turning into a demon would give him that. Which alludes to base Rengoku not being able to force him to give his absolute best. The only moment Rengoku gave Akaza a hard time was when his death was already ensured, and it was nothing but a last-ditch effort to hold him in place until sunrise, or cut his head off, which ultimately failed anyways. The reason Rengoku didn't go higher on this list was due to his life being cut short and unable to grow stronger like the rest of the Demon Slayers. You can see that the bottom 3 Demon Slayers were the ones who hadn't been able to unlock their Demon Slayer marks like the individuals above this point, which gives a considerable buff. Base to base, I do think Rengoku would be placed higher, or theoretical max potential Rengoku would have also been higher, but with what the story has given us, he stops here. Next, we have the Love Hashira, Mitsuri, who is just as strong as she is hungry, which is very. Mitsuri contains a genetic abnormality, which makes her muscle fibers 8 times more dense than normal muscles, which caused her to be one of the strongest humans on Earth before even training. But when she did start training as a Demon Slayer, her strength grew exponentially. The reason I put her above Rengoku was due to her performance against the strongest form of Hantengu, which she performed really well in after awakening her Demon Slayer mark. Tanjiro and the others needed to cut off the weaker main body, while Mitsuri was forced to keep the strongest form at bay until they succeeded, which she managed to do until almost sunrise. Had the weak spot been on the final form of Hantengu, she may have even been able to kill it herself. Regardless, considering how she performed and was able to effectively hold him back while not having the opportunity to be able to do anything lethal is very impressive and deserving of this spot. The next 3 spots are very difficult to rank because, to be honest, they are very relative to each other and honestly are very interchangeable. You can make this into any order you like and you would technically still be right, and that's all due to the fact that they are very close. But for my list, in 5th place, I put the water Hashira, Giyu. Giyu is such a skilled sword fighter that he was able to invent another application for water breathing called Dead Calm, which is a defensive move that slashes in every direction to cut or deflect any incoming attacks. I put him here because he had to fight Akaza in the Infinity Castle, who at this point in time was ordered to kill off the Demon Slayers by Muzan, thereby making this fight more serious than it was against Rengoku. And once Giyu had awakened his mark, he was able to contend very effectively against this much more serious Akaza. Of course, it wasn't until Tanjiro arrived and they both began fighting him together that they were able to actually defeat him. And later he was also able to fight against Muzan with the other Hashiras and save Tanjiro despite being heavily fatigued. For the 4th place position, I have the serpent Hashira, Obanai, who has heterochromia as well as a snake wrapped around his neck. Obanai is actually the most skilled swordsman out of all the Hashiras in terms of technique. I put him at this point because he was able to fight very effectively against Muzan with the help of the other Hashiras and even slash at his neck. Keep in mind, he was able to do this before he even unlocked his Demon Slayer mark. Of course, once he did unlock the Demon Slayer mark, as well as the ability to see the transparent world, he became much more powerful than he previously was. That is why I personally believe he is slightly above Giyu, although they are still relative. Also, his snake gives him extrasensory perception, which is also a bonus. In 3rd place, we have the Mist Hashira, Muichiro, who is actually the youngest of all the Hashira at the very young age of 14 years old. To add on to this, it only took him 2 months of training to actually become a Hashira. So, as you can tell, he is a cesspool of raw talent, and as such, without any Demon Slayer mark or ability to see the transparent world, he was highly regarded as one of the best Hashiras. Once Muichiro unlocked his Demon Slayer mark, he absolutely no-diffed the Upper Moon 5 demon, Gyoko. He was also in the battle against the Upper Moon 1 demon, Kokoshibo, and unfortunately he gets overshadowed by Kokoshibo, as well as the 2 strongest Hashiras, although this isn't really a negative, considering how strong Kokoshibo actually is. No single Hashira can stand in a 1v1 with him, not even Muichiro, who had lost an arm and plenty of blood. However, it's important to note that Muichiro gained the ability to see the transparent world. However, by that point, it was already too late for him. Like I said earlier, the 5th, 4th, and 3rd positions can be swapped very easily and have logical arguments for them, but in my opinion, due to his raw talent, I believe him to be 3rd place. In 2nd place, we have the Wind Hashira, Sanemi, who has one of the worst attitudes within the ranks of Hashira, or perhaps even the entire series, but make no mistake, he is strong. In fact, he is the 2nd strongest Hashira within this ranking, and this title was given to him by none other than Kokoshibo himself, the Upper Moon 1 demon. He was instrumental within the fight against Kokoshibo, but after that fight, he also participated in the fight against Muzan, and was just as effective as all the other Hashiras. Of course, he unlocked his Demon Slayer mark, which gave him enough of a boost to be able to compete against the strongest demons, But even then, he needed to be saved a few times by the strongest Hashira of them all. Segue to the number one strongest Hashira within the series, the Stone Hashira, Gyomei. To be honest, we don't even need to justify this, but we will discuss it anyway. Of course, all the Demon Slayers have acknowledged that Gyomei is the strongest of them all. This includes Tanjiro and Inosuke, but even the other Hashiras acknowledge that he is the strongest of them all. But we could take this one step further, because Kokushibo not only claims that he is the strongest Demon Slayer of the time, but that he is the strongest warrior that he has battled within the last 300 years. And as I mentioned earlier, Sanemi was doing well against Kokushibo, but he did need to be saved numerous times by Gyomei. And in the fight against Muzan, the other Hashiras needed to be saved by him as well. Of course, Gyomei does have his Demon Slayer mark unlocked, but he can also see the transparent world, which solidifies his godly status above his peers. But that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe, as that would mean a lot to me, and comment below if you agree or disagree, as well as your personal ranking. With all that out the way, I hope you all have a great day, and peace out.